Hello, everyone, and welcome to ABC News Live. I'm Kimberly Brooks. Thanks so much for joining us. As you know, Trump has been tweeting this morning, and so we're going to be giving you updates about his sit down with Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi later this late morning. And also, we have a few new clues about Kelsey Bharath, this missing Colorado mom who vanished right after Thanksgiving. And of course, we're going to give you some updates about that relentless winter weather in the Southeast. But before we do all of that, here's some updates you should know.
The Marine Corps has now declared that 5 Marines are dead, nearly a week after their refueling plane crashed into the sea off the Japanese coast. The plane had a mid-air accident with a fighter jet.
And Maria Butina, a Russian gun rights activist accused of trying to run influence operations in the U.S., has pleaded guilty to conspiracy and is agreeing to cooperate with investigators.
A jury continues deliberations today in the sentencing phase of the trial of James Fields. He was convicted of murder for driving his car into a crowd in Charlottesville, Virginia.
Getting around is getting a little less expensive.
Nationwide in the past week, the price of regular unleaded dropped about 3 cents to $2.42 a gallon on average, according to new numbers out from the Energy Department. Prices have been going down for a few weeks due to oil costing less, but OPEC has agreed to cut production, so they may not go much lower.
As you wait for those holiday packages, look at this. Look at the man in Chicago. Oh, little thing. He took it all in stride. He was smiling, just kind of shaking it off.
It was ticklish.
So Trump is meeting with Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer today. It's his first sit down since the midterms, and this is all about the funding for the border wall. So I want to go out to Karen Travers, who's in the D.C. bureau right now. Karen, based on his tweets, where do you think Trump's head is going into this meeting?
Well, Kim, the president has been asking for $5 billion to fund the wall he wants to build on the U.S.-Mexico border. And Democrats have not budged over the last few weeks as the numbers have been tossed around. There was a bipartisan agreement in the Senate for $1.6 billion. But we're told by Democratic officials that the number that Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer are bringing to the White House today is $1.3 billion for border security measures. That doesn't mean the physical construction of a wall. That's things like fencing and drones and greater security down at the border. The question is, will the president agree to this? And for all indications, the president has said he is willing to shut down the government to get the funding he wants. But Kim, there is just no appetite among his fellow Republicans here in Washington to have a government shutdown that would begin on December 22nd, right before the holiday season. Republicans say this is up to the president to strike a deal with Democrats. They cannot pass a spending bill unless Democrats get on board. So they're saying this is all up to the president today. This meeting could be very consequential, and we might know this afternoon what things will be looking like for the next week and a half.
Yes, and speaking of senators, there are some other senators that are expressing a lot of concern for the chaos in the White House, specifically the 44 ex-senators who wrote a Washington Post op-ed to the current senators. What do we make of this?
Yeah, this was interesting last night. A group of bipartisan senators, more Democrats than Republicans or independents, urging their colleagues, if you will, in the Senate, current members, to stand for democracy, saying whatever united or divided us, we did not veer when we were in office from our unwavering and shared commitment to placing our country, democracy, and national interest above all else. So a plea in print, if you will, for senators to stick to those guiding principles. Of course, you can say that these former lawmakers just not liking what they're seeing out of Washington recently.
Yeah, and of course, in the midst of this, we still have this scramble for the new chief of staff. So, and also, you know, people are talking about this, but Jared Kushner even made a rare appearance on TV last night discussing it as well. What's the latest on the contenders?
Yeah, Jared Kushner was on Fox News last night talking about the criminal justice reform bill that he has been pushing very strongly here from the White House, urging Senate Republicans to take this up and get this on the floor. This is a passion project for him, if you will, something he has really been backing here and something he convinced the president to get behind. In that interview, he was also asked about the palace intrigue and the drama taking place here, about who will replace John Kelly as the next chief of staff. Here's what Jared Kushner had to say.
The president will make the right choice for chief of staff when he's ready, and hopefully he'll choose somebody he's got great chemistry with, great relationship with, who will help him navigate the next couple of years through all of the good opportunities that emerge to keep pushing forward.
So no hints there from Jared Kushner as to who the president is leaning toward, who the top contender is. No surprise, he says he hopes it's somebody that the president can work well with, which seems like a pretty basic standard for the president to take when looking for this very critical position here in the White House. Kim, the president tweeted that there are many people that are interested in this, and why wouldn't they be, because it's such a great position.
All right, Karen, thank you so much. And just a reminder to everyone, whoever replaces John Kelly, this will be the third person to fill this role in the first 2 years of the Trump presidency. So anyway, now let's shift our attention to London, where the Brexit deal continues to make headlines. As you know, yesterday, Theresa May, she delayed the vote on the Brexit deal. So now I want to go to Julia McFarlane, who's in London. Julia, today, because of that delay, Theresa is now lobbying the EU leaders. What's the latest there?
Hey, Kim. Well, just to put things into perspective for you, this morning, one of the main national newspapers had two stories on their front page. One, Theresa May seeks help from EU leaders. The second story was NASA sends probe to outer space to search for alien life. And the question on everyone's minds was, which story is most likely to come true? And I'll give you a hint. It's not the story about Theresa May. So May began this morning flying to The Hague. She had talks with the Dutch PM. She then flew to Berlin to talk to Angela Merkel. And now she is having talks with EU leaders in Brussels, including EU Commission President Juncker. Now, she's trying to get some movement to make her deal more sellable to politicians back here in Parliament, because as it stands, there's no chance it's going to get passed. And as you can hear, the British people are also feeling very strongly about this impasse and about where this country is in this ever ongoing saga. Things are really at DEFCON 1 in political terms, as you can probably see.
Absolutely. And one of the biggest sticking points, it seems, is this backstop. So what's the conflict there?
So it's very complex and very technical, but basically what it means is the EU and the UK have a set period of time to agree on a trade agreement. If they do not arrive at an agreement within the allotted time, there is this mechanism which basically automatically comes into place and makes the whole of the UK revert back to EU regulations. Now, the reason why it's such an impasse is because British parliamentarians, they've noticed that the only way to get out of that backstop, this mechanism, is for it to be bilaterally agreed with the UK and the EU. And they say that keeps the UK technically in the EU without any say in it. So it's technical, but it's a very important sticking point. And the EU today, the message was loud and clear from EU leaders that there is no room for negotiations. So it is unlikely what's going to happen, because the way it seems that Theresa May will not be able to negotiate out of that backstop agreement. And then what happens if she can't get that deal passed? It remains to be seen.
Yeah, so I appreciate all the information. I just have to ask you really quick, what exactly is happening behind you? Because there seems to be a lot of commotion. So if you can fill us in on that.
Yes, so basically there have been these protesters who've been out here all day. It's freezing today, and they've been out here all day. There have been buses going around past, and what's interesting is that I've noticed that cars, concrete trucks, business vans, a lot of them, as they drive past and they see these protesters, they honk in solidarity. So it just shows that this is something that people all over the country, and particularly here in London, they feel very strongly about. So there's two groups of protesters here. There's these people here. They are asking for a second referendum. They want another vote on the terms of Brexit. That some of them also want to see an option to remain in the EU. There's another group, I have to say, they're a little further down, and they are more ardent Brexiteers. They want to sever all ties with the EU, and they want May and the government to make good on their promise to take the UK out of the EU. And people are passionate here. What can I say? This is an issue that is dividing the country, and it shows no signs of being reconciled anytime soon.
All right, Julia, thank you so much. We appreciate it. All right, so now I want to move on to the search for Kelsey Bharath in Colorado. This search is intensifying. If you don't know, she is a young mom, a pilot, and she completely vanished on Thanksgiving Day. So I want to go to Clayton Sandell, who's in Denver, with the updates. Clayton, are you there?
Hey, Kim. Yeah, you know, it's been 19 days since Kelsey Bharath went missing from her hometown here in Woodland Park, Colorado. It's a town of about 10,000 people or so, just west of Colorado Springs up here in the mountains. And we're now starting to learn a little bit more about the timeline. Kelsey Bharath was last seen, as you mentioned, on Thanksgiving Day, just down the road here at a Safeway supermarket. Police say they have surveillance video showing her in that supermarket with her young daughter, one-year-old daughter, shopping that day on Thanksgiving. But that is the last confirmed sighting of her. They have spoken with her fiancé, Patrick Frazee, who says that is the last day he saw her when when he picked up their daughter. They are engaged, but are not living together. He took custody of their child that day, and he says that's the last time he saw her. So then police now say a couple of other things happened a few days later on November 25th. First of all, Patrick Frazee, the fiancé, says that is the last time he got a text message from Kelsey. Coincidentally, there was another mysterious text message sent from her phone to the flight school down in Pueblo, Colorado, where she worked as a pilot. In that text message, she or somebody using her phone said that Kelsey was going to be missing the next week of work. So then police also tell us that later that day in the afternoon, around 5 p.m., that her cell phone pinged. They registered a ping, detected her cell phone 700 miles away from here in the state of Idaho. So all sorts of clues, getting a little bit better idea of the timeline, but still no sign of Kelsey. Right now they say her fiance is cooperating, but for now this remains a missing persons case.
Wow. So her mother also spoke out, and she said that, you know, her just up and leaving and disappearing is very unlike her. So what else do we know about Kelsey?
Yeah, Kelsey, she's 29 years old. She's a pilot. She has this young daughter. By all accounts, her mother describes her as being very responsible. This is just not the kind of behavior that you would expect from her. Kelsey's mom is actually from Idaho, and so there was speculation perhaps that maybe Kelsey was headed that way to see family in either Idaho or Washington State. Right now, that is all speculation, but we do know that the FBI and local police have been involved in this case, both here in Colorado and in other places, including Idaho, where they went to a small airport trying to find any sign that perhaps she had flown through there in a small plane. But the police chief told us yesterday there are no aircraft that are missing. There's no sign that Kelsey actually took a plane and flew anywhere. So it's a real mystery here, Kim.
Wow. Well, we're just hoping for the best. Clayton, I appreciate the updates. All right, so now, as you know, the weather gods have shown no mercy in the southeast. So I want to go to David Faraday, who's in the middle of one of these winter storms, and see how the weather is there.
Well, conditions slowly improving in western North Carolina. If you look behind me, you can see all the snow we got. Some areas 1.5 feet of snow. That's actually one of the main roads that runs up through Caldwell County into the town of Lenoir. Not a whole lot of traffic because still some very icy conditions. This is a secondary road. When we got all that snowfall, the temperature actually climbed later in the day to about 40 degrees overnight. It melted. You can see this car slowly going by because all of this is black ice right now. Early this morning, we were out in the Hickory area just south of here Road crews were out down there dealing with the black ice, putting down sand and salt. Fortunately, conditions are improving across western North Carolina. They're expecting more melting later today, maybe even some rainfall later this week. Now back to you, Kim.
All right, Dave, thank you so much. And of course, I'm not sure what's going on with the national forecast, but our chief meteorologist does. Ginger Z, give us the updates.
Kim, thank you. Let's go ahead and get started because there's a lot to talk about in the world of weather, especially because the same area that was hit by the storm, up to 34 inches of snow, by the way, has now black ice concerns for the next couple of mornings because we'll have melting during the day and then all of that freezes when it goes below 32 at night. Other issues is that heavy wet snow, even a foot of it in Kingsport, Tennessee, took down trees. You could still see damage in North Carolina from a roof collapsing from the heavy snow. That's a lot because these structures aren't necessarily built for 34 inches or 24 inches or a lot of different numbers that came up in that storm. And guess what? We got another storm and another threat coming at you. So already some precipitation happening in the Cascades. That's from that low, and there's a lot of wind alerts and winter storm warnings for the northern Rockies. You usually can handle it there, but look what happens by the end of the week. The low settles in the southeast. It's right there over Louisiana. But the heaviest rain is going to position itself in a place like Asheville or throughout Georgia. Anywhere that ended up getting that snow, going to get rain on top of it by the end of the week and probably melting quite a bit more. Until then, it's those wind chills that we're going to be dealing with, especially here. Look at some of the numbers early this morning. It feels like 21 in Washington, D.C. Kim?
It is cold everywhere. All right, guys, do you mind if we just end on a happy note? We have to. If you don't know, Queen's iconic song, Bohemian Rhapsody, is the most streamed song of the 20th century. So if you can wrap your head around that, go ahead and do it and listen to this.
Mamma mia, mamma mia, mamma mia, let me go. Beelzebub has a devil put aside for me, for me, for me.
All right, that's awesome. Okay, guys, if you want to stay updated on these headlines, you can go to abcnews.com or you can download the app. And make sure you stick around so you can check out the briefing room at 3:30 p.m. and World News Prime at 8 p.m. For now, though, I'm Kimberly Brooks, and thanks so much for joining us. Yes.